limitless, this self-identity?
It's not totally limitless.
What's the limit?
When you're talking about International Women's Day, I don't know why we take the conversation around International Women's Day and make it about this.
But if anyone,
there's so many benefits.
right? But if
to having
anyone,
a day.
according to you, can identify as a woman, anyone can, right?
I don't see a problem with.
Just literally put the hand up and say I'm a woman.
But it's not an easy thing to do, to go out into
Actually,
the world.
it's
very easy.
Very easy.
You might think it's easy to say, but to decide to do that, to say
what
this
does
is
doing
who,
it involve?
Whatever that person decides, but to
Does
go
it
out
involve
into the
makeup?
world and say, I don't identify as perhaps the sex I
So
was
why
born
can't
as.
I
It's not-
identify? Okay, why can't I identify as a black lesbian?
Welcome to today's show, where you're going to watch Piers Morgan take on delusional crazy guests, including a woman who thinks Usain Bolt should compete against female athletes, a feminist who thinks a woman can be a father, a woman who thinks a 4-year-old can decide their gender, and more. Make yourself comfortable. This is Wokes Get Wrecked.
Well, Jaylene Cheney made global headlines this weekend after claiming fat people are entitled to extra seats on planes because they're so fat. She said all plus-sized passengers should be provided with an extra free seat or even 2 or 3 seats depending on their size to accommodate their needs and ensure their comfort during the flight. Well, look, Jaylene, you can have your extra seat, you can have 10 extra seats, but you've got to pay for them. Why should you be entitled to special treatment, raising the cost of travel for everybody else because you're obese? Maximum self-entitlement, zero self-accountability.
I think charging overweight people extra to fly is a great idea. It would give them motivation to lose weight, and they'd be fitter women on flights.
Why do we give 1 day to veterans of world wars and a month to gay people, for example? No harm intended on Mr. Barr here. I'm sure he'll be responding in kind to. But I have no issue with James and his sexuality.
Thank you.
But why do I have to celebrate it for a month?
I should say no issue with yours, Piers.
But
I would rather you didn't ram it down my throat all the time.
There's no danger of that happening, but I just wanted to... But to be clear, there's no straight month, right? There's no celebration of my sexuality or ramming of anything down people's throats. But Riley, before we all lose the plot here...
Was that a Freudian slip by Piers and his true orientation? I guess we'd have to ask his wife.
What do you feel if Usain Bolt suddenly identified as a woman?
That's a ridiculous question.
Oh,
and you know
why?
it is. Come on, that's
Why?
silly. Because you can't wake up tomorrow morning and decide that you're a woman and start competing.
It's literally what Leah Thomas has done.
It takes 2 years. In the UK, it takes 2 years.
It takes 1 year to qualify in athletics, right? So Usain Bolt could potentially, within a year, with a bit of reduced testosterone treatment, he could sprint against women.
A huge reduction in testosterone.
Yeah.
A huge.
It makes no difference to body mass or size or power.
But it would
or
take,
speed.
it would alter everything.
So you'd be fine? Would you be fine with that?
If he suddenly did, if that's.
You respect his right to be a woman.
Ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous. It is ridiculous, but not for the reasons you think.
But
Because it could happen. And you think it's fair.
That's obscene. That is obscene.
Would you be happy if Usain Bolt identified as a woman and began winning the races against women by 2 seconds?
Making an extreme argument out of what are people's lives.
It's happening with Leah Thomas.
I think feminists should focus more on doing exercise themselves than on men competing in women's sports. Then the world would be a happier place and we'd all live in harmony.
I think that we'll all agree that motherhood starts way beyond the biological event. And anyone, including men, can mother and play the role of a mother.
Father.
Piers, would you...
Women, mother. That's because the titles are male and female titles.
Okay.
By the look of that woman's hairstyle, she probably thinks she could be a father.
That's not mothering.
Mothers are women. I hate to break it to you.
Okay,
I know we're not allowed to say this anymore, but it's an insult to every damn mother in this country. That suddenly blokes can come along and go, I'm mummy. No, you're not.
You are.
You're not. You're daddy.
I think someone needs to show that feminist libtard who her daddy is. Then she'd see there are things men can do and women can't, if you know what I mean.
When did Hazel
having a preference?
Yeah, when did Hazel decide that she was no longer going to be a girl?
Hazel decided that they were non-binary when they were about 4. They had been exploring gender before that, trying on different pronouns, experimenting with different names. But they picked they/them pronouns and chose the name Hazel when they were 4
See, Ari,
years old.
with the greatest of respect, I have a 7-year-old daughter, right? When she was 4 years old, her main decision of the day was whether to watch Peppa Pig or Frozen. She had not a clue what about gender identity or non-binary or any of this stuff. And I put it to you that this wasn't Hazel's idea, was it? This was your idea. You decided that Hazel had gender issues that she needed to address, and you persuaded your daughter that she was no longer to be a girl, didn't she?
I mean, I personally don't agree with that assertion, but I can see how that could be misconstrued.
I think that woman's pronouns should be idiot, imbecile, and moron. Though that's probably being too nice to her.
Right, but I'm with those girls in that school. They challenged the teacher. She lost the classroom. They wanted the teacher to address them in a
They're at a
different
girls'
way.
school, Kevin.
But one of them wasn't identified.
Literally,
as
their parents have said, we want to send our little girl to a girls' school, which is called a girls' school.
Yeah,
and then when a teacher has the audacity to call them girls, they go nuts. And the teacher then eventually has to leave.
Piers, they challenged the teacher. The teacher stands on her authority and says, no, I'm doing it my way. If that teacher had spoken to them, had a dialogue, understood it, look, one of them wasn't identifying as a girl. I just don't see what the big problem is. I genuinely do not see what the problem is.
If you don't, here's what the problem is. If you don't identify as a girl, don't go to a bloody girls' school. Esther, have I gone nuts?
But what if one of them identified as a tree? Would you say hello, I don't know, flora and fauna?
Well, before I went away, I identified as
I went to a girls' school.
I identified as a black lesbian, as you know, Esther, and your cackle went around the world.
Don't set her off again.
But this is the problem. If anyone can identify as anything they like, then this insanity just goes everywhere.
Oh, of course. But I think the bigger message that's being sent out here is that the children are ruling the classrooms, which should never be the case. And there's no point of them going to school, because part of going to school is learning discipline and respect for authority. How can you possibly bully a teacher into apologising for calling you a girl?
I'm a great believer in good discipline in schools, but that does not mean...
no, you're not. You're a great believer in... No. You're a great believer in a teacher calling girls girls, and then you think they have the right to launch some kind of protest.
It's how you set the rules and how you then govern that school.
Kevin,
I think
Kevin, I've known you a long time. You don't believe this.
I do.
No, you don't.
I do.
You don't think a bunch of girls in a girls' school should have the right to drive a teacher out for calling them girls?
No, I'm sorry the teacher is gone, but I don't believe the teachers handled it as well as they
She said, good afternoon, girls.
And if it's then challenged and the kids are explaining why they think they shouldn't be addressed that way,
the school is literally called School for Girls.
Is it anything more pathetic than a guy who's a feminist? Most of them only pretend to be feminists to get into women's pants. Guys, if you're watching, men who are feminists make women drier than the Sahara. To see more videos like this, then like and subscribe.